Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Take a moment right now and look around you. What do you see? Maybe a phone, a laptop, a coffee cup. From the earliest whispers of exchange to the cutting edge of cryptocurrency, we're going to peel back the layers of this fascinating, often invisible, force that binds our world together. You're a farmer. You've got a surplus of corn. Your neighbor's a shoemaker. He's got shoes. You need shoes. He needs corn. Easy. You swap. This, my friends, is barter, the earliest form of economic exchange. And for a long time, it worked. Get ready, because this is going to change the way you look at every single transaction. These beautiful, small shells, particularly from the Maldives, became a widely accepted currency across Africa, Asia, and Oceania for thousands of years. The word salary actually comes from the Latin salarium, referring to the salt rations or money paid to Roman soldiers. Salt was essential for preserving food and for life itself, making it incredibly valuable, especially in regions where it was scarce. Why? They were durable, easy to carry, hard to counterfeit, and small enough for change. Now, think about how you acquired those things. Chances are, money was involved. It's everywhere, isn't it? Gold, silver, copper. These materials had inherent value. These weren't just lumps of metal. They were standardized pieces, stamped with an official mark, guaranteeing their weight and purity. From Lydia, the idea spread like wildfire across the Greek city-states, then to the Roman Empire, and eventually across the entire world. These weren't just pieces of metal. They were symbols of power, stability, and trust. But even coins had their downsides. They were heavy, risky to transport in large quantities, and susceptible to clipping, where unscrupulous individuals would shave off tiny bits of metal from the edges, gradually debasing the currency. This led to innovations like milled edges, which you still see on coins today, designed to prevent such fraud. Coins facilitated trade on an unprecedented scale, funded empires, and allowed for the growth of complex economies. This simple innovation changed everything. No more weighing, no more haggling over quality. A coin was a coin. Would the paper really be worth what it claimed? This led to the establishment of central banks, like the Bank of England in 1694, which were given the sole authority to issue banknotes aiming to provide stability and confidence in the currency. These banknotes were initially backed by gold or silver, meaning you could theoretically exchange your paper money for a fixed amount of precious metal. They were scarce, durable, easily divisible, and could be melted down and reshaped. Fiat money is currency that a government has declared to be legal tender, but it is not backed by a physical commodity. Its value comes from government decree and, crucially, from the collective trust and confidence that people have in that government and its economy. Credit cards, invented in the mid-20th century, were just the beginning. The internet brought electronic funds transfers, online banking, and payment apps. Money, for many of us, became less about physical cash and more about numbers on a screen. We're now dealing with bits and bytes, not just coins and paper. It's not just a tool for buying things. It's a fundamental part of how we organize our societies, build our economies, and imagine our future. This digital transformation has made transactions faster, cheaper, and global, but it also raises questions about privacy, security, and control. What do you think the future of money will look like? Your thoughts are gold. Think about it. The paper in your wallet isn't inherently valuable. Today, we stand at another fascinating crossroads. Built on decentralized blockchain technology, they offer a vision of peer-to-peer transactions without intermediaries. While volatile and still evolving, they represent a powerful new idea about what money could be. Its worth comes from the shared belief that it can be exchanged for goods and services. It's a story that's still being written, and you, my friend, are a part of it. These could offer the benefits of digital money with the stability of traditional fiat currency. Countries would fix the value of their currency to a specific amount of gold. This provided stability and limited government's ability to print endless money, theoretically preventing inflation. This marked the end of the Bretton Woods system and ushered in the era of fiat money. Imagine a merchant traveling with a wagon full of gold. This problem gave rise to the next great leap in the history of money: paper. And during times of crisis, like wars or economic depressions, governments often found it necessary to abandon the gold standard to print more money and stimulate their economies. Early forms of metal money were simply pieces of metal weighed out for each transaction. In return, the goldsmith would issue a receipt, a piece of paper acknowledging the deposit. Merchants used flying money to avoid carrying heavy strings of coins. These were essentially drafts that could be redeemed elsewhere. The Yuan dynasty later issued government-backed banknotes. Marco Polo was famously amazed by this concept during his travels, noting how the Great Khan could make money out of mulberry bark. They could simply endorse the receipt over to someone else. These receipts, or promissory notes, became a form of paper money. The goldsmiths, seeing that not everyone redeemed their gold at once, started lending out some of the gold they held, charging interest. This was the birth of banking as we know it, and with it, the concept of fractional reserve banking, where banks hold only a fraction of deposits in reserve and lend out the rest. These receipts were essentially promises to pay the bearer the gold on demand. Imagine carrying a set of scales to the market just to buy bread. Still, it was better than a chicken. You could sell your corn for cowrie shells, then use those shells to buy shoes or fishing nets or anything else. It was a universal translator for value. It dictates our daily lives, fuels our economies, and shapes our societies. They weren't always uniform, and their supply could be unpredictable. What if you found a beach full of them? Their value would plummet. Humanity needed something more reliable. These were so big they couldn't be moved, but ownership transferred. This shows us something crucial. Money isn't just about the physical object. It's about the collective belief in its value. It's a shared agreement, a social construct. What if he wants a fishing net? Now you, the corn farmer, have to find someone who has a fishing net and wants corn. This is what economists call the double coincidence of wants. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but the needle also has to want your specific brand of hay. It was incredibly inefficient, limiting trade and making specialization almost impossible. How do you pay a doctor with a chicken if the doctor is a vegetarian? But have you ever really stopped to think about what money is? Where did it come from? And how did we get from trading goats for grain to tapping a piece of plastic or sending digital bits across the globe? Today, we're embarking on an epic journey, the entire history of money. Imagine a world without money. Sounds simple, right? But here's where the barter blues kick in. What if the shoemaker doesn't want corn? People needed something more fluid, something universally desired or accepted to facilitate these exchanges. They needed a medium. And so, the first proto-monies began to emerge. Think about it. What makes something a good form of money? It needs to be durable, portable, divisible, recognizable, and relatively scarce. Before coins, before paper, before digital bytes, humanity experimented with all sorts of things as money. Enter the cowrie shell. Then there was salt. We also saw things like large, carved stones on the island of Yap, the famous rye stones. These early forms of money were a massive leap forward. They solved the double coincidence of wants problem. While cowrie shells were great, they had limitations. And so we turned to metal. Then, around 600 BC, in the ancient kingdom of Lydia, a revolutionary idea emerged: the coin. The Lydian coin, often made of electrum, was the world's first truly standardized currency. Think about the Roman denarius or the Greek drachma. As trade expanded, especially over long distances, carrying vast amounts of heavy, valuable coins became impractical and dangerous. The story often begins with goldsmiths. People would deposit their gold with a trusted goldsmith for safekeeping. Soon, people realized they didn't need to physically retrieve their gold for every transaction. The first true paper money, however, originated in China during the Tang dynasty, fully developing by the Song dynasty. In the West, paper money gained traction much later, often issued by private banks or governments to finance wars. The challenge was trust. For centuries, the idea that money needed to be backed by something tangible, like gold, was deeply ingrained. This was the gold standard. But the gold standard had its problems. It limited economic growth, as the money supply couldn't easily expand beyond the available gold reserves. The final nail in the gold standard's coffin came in 1971, when President Richard Nixon announced that the US dollar would no longer be convertible to gold. Fiat is Latin for "let it be done." This shift to fiat currency gave governments and central banks unprecedented power to manage their economies, but it also introduced new risks, particularly inflation if too much money is printed. And then the digital revolution arrived. So where are we headed? The history of money is a story of constant evolution, driven by human needs for efficiency, security, and trust. The rise of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin has challenged the very notion of centralized, government-issued money. Governments and central banks are responding with their own innovations, exploring central bank digital currencies, digital versions of national currencies. From a simple cowrie shell to a complex string of code on a blockchain, money has always been a reflection of our collective agreement, our shared trust, and our ever-evolving ingenuity. The next time you make a purchase, whether it's with cash, card, or crypto, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey that humble medium of exchange has taken. If you found this journey through the history of money as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.